Hi everyone. This video is made up of clips recorded at our first stratnavapp.com audience-led live demo, where we invited real stratnavapp.com users to ask us questions, and we demonstrated the answers to them live. It's a little bit rough around the edges because it was recorded live, and because I've edited out the questions in conversation, so you just get to see the answers. In it, we talk about deleting projects, using meetings as an organizing principle, reporting, and StratML, amongst other things. I do hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please like and follow my channel. To delete a project, there's a number of ways you can do it. If you're in the project, if you've got the project, you're open. So for example, I have this project open, which is a sort of demo project, so I'm not sharing anything too confidential. It's nominally a project about Uber. Don't read my strategic analysis of Uber because it was mostly done on the fly and it's mostly nonsense. But if you click on the name of the project and then you select project details, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see on most screens of this format, there's a little delete button. And if you delete that, it will delete that project. Bear in mind, though, if you've shared the project with someone, in other words, if you're collaborating with the project on someone, what it'll do is delete your link to that project. But the other person will continue to have access to the project. It won't delete it for them. And then what will happen is if everyone who has access to a project deletes it, then the system sort of overnight housekeeping routine will go in and say, right, no one wants this project anymore, so I'll get rid of all of the data. So just bear in mind, if you've shared your project with someone, then when you delete your access, you're not deleting it for everyone else. Now, I use meetings almost as a central sort of organizing principle in StratNavApp, because if I'm doing strategy for people, whether it's developing or executing it, meetings are kind of where stuff gets done, right? You have a meeting with people to gather insight and gather intelligence and develop insight, or to brainstorm options, or to evaluate things, or to make decisions. So, you know, pretty much, yes, you can lock yourself in a dark room and put a towel over your head and do strategy, but most strategy tends to happen more collaboratively in a meeting-based environment. And so we built meetings quite centrally into the functionality at StratNavApp. And you'll see, as I always point out to people, it is in fact the very middle thing on the strategy board overview. And if I click on the meetings, now this is a demo project, so I've got I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a diary this clean, right, with this few meetings? But because this is a demo project, I've just stuck a couple of things in here just to illustrate the principle. So it'll map out for a particular project that you're doing all of the meetings that you're planning at the various stages of the project. And so I would, you know, typically when I start a project, I would start off by saying, who are the key stakeholders that I need to engage in this project? And I might do them one-on-one or in groups, depending on how we're doing it. And then I would arrange meetings with them and plan agendas. And these things, they would get mapped out in this sort of calendar-based view here. And you'll see most things in StratNavApp are driven from a sense of sheer laziness. So you see it's highlighted things about these meetings, and if you hover over the little highlight, it will say, for example, that this meeting, which is coming up tomorrow, doesn't have an agenda. Now, in my view of planning world, you know, that's a problem worth highlighting. So it's highlighting. I haven't set an agenda for any of these meetings, but normally I would have set an agenda for my meetings, and it would highlight if I'd missed one. Equally, if the meeting was in the past, it would highlight that I hadn't captured any minutes of it. The other thing that you can see here is that some of them are sort of grayed out. And those are because this particular project is set up with our Google Calendar integration. So it's actually gone and looked into, again, a calendar I've set up for demo purposes again, but it's gone and looked into my calendar and said, hey, you've got some meetings in your calendar which aren't in StratNavApp yet. And if I click on that, it'll open up and say, well, do you want to pull that meeting through into StratNavApp? or do you want to ignore it, and then we won't show it anymore. And there's sometimes a third option as well, which if you do have a meeting at the same time, it'll say, are these the same meetings, and you can just coordinate them, and that way it will keep your StratNav app calendar in sync with your Google Suite calendar, for example. With Microsoft, there are some facilities to do it. The integration isn't quite as tight, but there are facilities as well for keeping your calendar integrated with Microsoft. So now I've clicked on one of those meetings, and I'm now in the meeting view, and you'll see, it's mapped out pretty much as you'd expect. I've got the attendees, these obviously fictitious made-up attendees. I've got a subject, a venue, time details, and here you can set an agenda, and over here you can type minutes. You'll see as well, because we happen to be within the time period of this meeting, it's popped up this little progress bar, if you like, which has told me we're going on 20% of the way through the meeting. And as it gets to the end, it'll start flashing up amber, say, hey, Chris, you need to wrap this up. And as we pass the end, it'll flash red. So just in terms of keeping time and managing your agenda, again, I spend a lot of my time interviewing executives. You've got to finish on time, otherwise you just don't get what you need from them. So that's quite important. But of course, you could manage your meetings anywhere. And I think the real reason for doing it here is that you can link to specific things in your strategy. So you could say, in this meeting, we were talking about, I either planned to talk about a particular strategic insight, or during the course of the meeting, a particular strategic insight came up. So we could be having this chat, and someone could say, outdated systems lead to customer complaints. Okay. And I can add that as an insight and add some more details. And so as we're going, as I'm talking to you guys and you telling me all stuff about this particular strategy that we're building, I'm then creating sort of on the hoof, if you like, the strategic insights that I'm getting out of this meeting. And I can do that for strategic insights, and I can do that for strategic initiatives, goals, and decisions, and various other things as well. The other thing that I can do is I can add actions on the fly as well. So I can say, for example, that Chris needs to send the research to Emma by Friday, just for argument's sake. Let's say that's what we agreed as an action. And if I hit that, it'll create an action. And what I'm going to show you quickly now, if all of this is making sense, that those insights and actions and whatever other things that we're doing are then getting fed back into the rest of the model. To the point, actually, that there's a little bit of machine learning in the background. Now, I cheated. I did something that was fairly obvious, using the word systems. But actually, what we've got is a bit of language processing that looks at that and will try and categorize it in the various models in StratNav app. So if I now go to my if I now go to my insights, and I will see that in my SWOT, for example, that okay, it's miscategorized it as a strength, but it's put it onto my SWOT, right? And all I need to do when I look at my SWOT is remember, I probably want to say that that's a I probably want to say that that's a weakness, and I drag it over there. But you'll see the AI has, for example, categorized it into the systems dimension on your McKinsey model. So it is learning as it goes, and clearly, I'm sure you all know how machine learning works. The more people do things, the more it learns and the more accurate it gets. So it's, if you like, using your data on an anonymized basis to help everyone operate slightly more efficiently. If I go into my stakeholders as well, Where am I going? If I go into my stakeholders and I go, actually, what I'm going to do, sorry, I'm going to go back to that meeting. So if I go back into that meeting and I click on, so remember I added that action, Chris needs to send the research to Emma by Friday. If I click on Chris, it'll give me, I've got a whole bunch of actions here that have been assigned to Chris, including conducting. I told you there's a lot of junk in this demo project, right? At some point, someone suggested I needed to do some industrial espionage on Google. It's there. That was a while ago, so I clearly haven't done that. But it's now collected all of the actions assigned to that person. So you can see it's building the whole integrated meta model behind the scenes, so that you can keep track. And at the appointed time, so on Friday, it'll pop up and say, hey, this was supposed to have happened. Has it been done? I will then either take it off and say it's been done, or it'll sit there as a sort of red flagged outstanding action to say, things are starting to fall behind. On the premium model as well, you can attach files. So if you have a meeting to review something, again, if it's a file, you can attach it directly to the meeting. So everyone's got everything they need available in one place. As soon as you click in a field, let's say I click in that minutes field, it then locks it. And if two people are in the meeting at the same time, the first person to click in it, it will lock it, and it'll, I think it uses a yellow color. So that field will go yellow for everyone else to say, by the way, someone else is editing it. But then as I'm typing, you will see with some measure of delay, depending again on whether you're a free or paid user, sorry, you will see my updates coming through. So if I'm the one who's taking the notes, you will see my updates coming through. You can, so if I've locked out, for example, the minutes field, you can go and add things to any of the other parts. So it works at a field level rather than a screen level. But at the moment, if someone is entering into a field, that field is locked until they've finished. But the other users will get live updates as they go. If you capture the actions, if you mention the names of the people, if they're in the meeting, you just need to mention their first name. If they're not in the meeting, you need first name and surname, so it can go and hunt. And as long as those people are stakeholders, it will pick them out and link them up to it. And as well, it'll be reasonably intelligent if you put something that looks like a due date in there. It'll be reasonably intelligent at parsing that out and actually setting a due date for that action. So it's easiest if you capture the actions in the right way first time, rather than scribbling something down and then going back and trying to work out who was supposed to do it, if that kind of makes sense. And that maybe takes a little bit of getting used to. But if you get it wrong, you just edit it and fix it. So it's not too much of an issue. You can as well, I should display over here, you can set people's roles. So you can indicate who the note taker was, for example. So if that's important in your particular environment. The other thing that you can do is so often what will happen is I'll set up a meeting with someone, and the system will go and so let's say I set up a meeting with Paul, and I go into the meeting, and it'll pop up this little link thing here which says, hey, by the way, there are outstanding actions on the system associated with this attendee. So I would very often, I would set up this meeting. Let's just say it's a meeting with myself and Tom Cruise, and the system is saying, hey, there's outstanding actions for Tom Cruise. If I just click that, it'll add those actions straight to the action list. And then when I go into the meeting, I'll sort of walk into the meeting and say, oh, there's some actions. I better remember to ask Tom about where he's going with researching case law. I can see here, actually, it's overdue. So maybe I need to ask him if there's a problem. Now, obviously, not all actions, I might say, no, I don't want to ask him about that particular action in the meeting. It's, this meeting's got a different purpose. So I can just delete it. But it kind of saves you, as you're working through the system, it's building up all the things that Tom Cruise is involved in. And when I go into a meeting with him, it's kind of a quick remind me if there's anything that I might want to talk to him about, and I'll just clear out the ones that I decide afterwards not to. It's worth being aware of. There are lots of times where you'll see, for example, here, where we've got an input box and this little down arrow, right? And wherever you have this input box, basically the gist of it is, if you start typing, it'll see if we've already got that thing. And if you don't, you press enter and it'll add it. So, for example, if I start typing, right, so if I start typing K, right, you see it's already come up with a short list of everyone whose name has got a K in. I mean, there's not a lot of stakeholders in this project, so that worked pretty effectively. But if I'm typing K and I can see, yes, it's Keira Knightley, she's the one I want to add, and I can just click on it. Okay, but if I carry on typing, for example, it's Kevin Davies or whatever, just to make up a random name, and you'll see it hasn't found any matches. But if I just hit enter, it will now have created a stakeholder record for Kevin Davies, which will then be available again throughout the system, just like any other stakeholder, and we'll have a stakeholder record behind it, which I can then, and it'll know he was an attendee at this meeting. So everywhere you see that input with a little down arrow generally means if you start typing, we'll find and connect to the one that you've already got, or if you don't already have that one, we'll just add it. And you'll see that works pretty uniformly throughout the system. At the moment, every project is pretty much ring-fenced on its own. Okay, there are. And the reason it's like that is because you and I may be working on a project together, and you and Barry may be working on a project together. And you want to see the two projects that you're working on, but you don't want me seeing the project that you're working on with Barry, and vice versa. So the projects are pretty much ring-fenced, and it's just determined by whoever is invited as a member to that project is able to see it. But if you click on your name, and again, these tend to be more the paid features, but there's so that calendar view that I showed you is the planning view for a particular project. So everyone who's got access to the project can see that whole calendar view, and you'll see all the meetings, whether you are scheduled to attend those meetings or not. If you go up and you press on your sort of account name, you get a personal calendar, which will go through all of the projects that you are a contributor to, and pull out all the meetings from all of those projects which you are slated to attend or have attended. Okay, so in a sense, that view replicates your traditional calendar, except you might have some things which aren't related to strategy at all, I can't imagine people doing things that aren't related to strategy, but if you do, you might have excluded those, and so they won't show up in those. And it's the same thing with personal actions. So I'm in half a dozen projects. There was an action assigned to me in that meeting there. I don't want to have to go through each project to say what are the actions assigned to me. So it'll pull all of the actions that are attached to me together and tell me whether I'm, whether they're overdue or whether I'm on schedule, or give me updates. And then of course, the other thing it does is you have the little red dot, right, which is the thing that's feeding you updates from across all of your projects. And that'll be telling you that, Barry updated the market research and Sai completed an action on whatever it was, and just keeping you up to date. And that also operates across all of the projects. But all of those, again, that's personal to you for your projects. So everyone will see, everyone's view on the personal calendar, personal actions, and the red dot will be different depending on which projects they have or haven't been invited to participate in. So I know that it always feels like a bit of a mouthful to explain to me, but hopefully hopefully it's clear. The projects are separate, but you can be a member of lots of different projects, and it'll help you keep yourself coordinated across those. One thing to be absolutely clear on is whatever you put into the system, no one will see it unless they've been invited to be a member of that project. And if you ever want to see who's a member of the project, if you click on the project name and you go down to share this project, right, you will see there are 3 people. They all happen to be me, right? But ignore that. This, in my demo project, there are exactly 3 people who can see the stuff that I've been typing here, and that's it. Right? I can create you as a stakeholder in this project. That's my secret. You won't know unless I go and share this project with you using this screen here. And obviously that's fairly key. People tend to get quite concerned about the confidentiality of their strategies. It's fairly key that the system keep those walls pretty firmly set up. So if you share the project, as in they're going to become a participant and a collaborator, then yes, you do share the whole project. And I think, you could come up with complicated systems of deciding who can see something, but it is kind of hard to participate and do strategy in a meaningful way if people are keeping secrets from you. So in terms of being a participant in the project, you're either in or you're out. But if you want to share without inviting someone else in, for example, you can go to our reports module and you'll see what it'll do is it'll list over here everything that has been, every part of the overall framework that's been used, which in this project is more or less everything. But if you hadn't used everything, only the things that you'd used, and you can tick which ones you do and don't want to include. So I could say, I just want to share with you the SWOT analysis. So I can tick all of these off. I want to share the SWOT analysis and the inside detail behind it, but I don't want to tell you about our strategic direction or our plans or anything else. So I can select all of those off. And then when I hit generate a Word report, it basically just extracts those parts, puts it in Word, formats it for you, cross-references it, and you get sort of a self-contained document with a subset of the information. And then you email it to someone, right? And at that point, it's outside of the control of the system. If you email it to the wrong people, that's like any Word document. That's up to you. The way I would think about it is think about who are the people that you are doing this strategy with. So, if you're an organization, your executive team, you would be doing the strategy with your executive team. You might be talking to suppliers, but you're certainly not doing the strategy with them. They're if you like, a stakeholder one step removed. They're not active participants in your strategy process, and they're not privy to your insights and your direction, except to the extent that someone decides to brief them. StratML was a cunning plan by a chap in America. And his idea was, if you could standardize the structure and format of a strategic plan, you could share it between systems, which seemed like an eminently sensible idea. And given that his structure was in any event similar to the structure I would have gone for, it seemed like a good thing to go. And this guy got as far as having it recognized as the ISO, the International Standards Organization, standard for strategy and performance plans. One of the things organizations have to do, for example, is they have to share details of their strategy with regulators and listing authorities and that. And so StratML would be a brilliant way of doing that, right? Because instead of sending them a PDF, which someone's then going to read and interpret, you send it in StratML format, and they could have a machine on the other side which pulled it in and knew exactly what to do with it. So it would be a way of exchanging strategy information between systems.